Hello, my name is Jeff. I'm a wizard. This is a past life reading. I've read all the personal information, but I'm not going to go into it. I'm just going to go straight into the past life story. But 3 remarks. When I thought of doing it yesterday, I was singing the theme song for Aladdin. So that's a clue. The second thing is the cat has never been this crazy right now. It's uncontrollable. And I was really called to use these Klimt cards with the gold. So let's see where that all adds up. Now, when I was shuffling the cards, this devil card popped out. Okay. That's a good start. Drama. Let's see. I'm not going to go too much into the cards. I just want to try to go straight into the story. Okay. Okay. So the subject here is that your choices are made for you. It's a life about somebody who had no freedom. You see this person with that rope around his neck. Yeah. It's a man. It's a man. Yes, and he was, this is his father. It's oppression. So there's this boy or this young man that had this very oppressive father. So we're for sure in like an Arabic region, in Aladdin's world somewhere, like Ottoman Empire. That just popped up in my head. And his father, in his oppressiveness, this son, this young guy who lived this life, he didn't have many choices. His father determined everything for him, right? So he just kind of had to do what his father told him to do. And this young man, he is really unhappy, and he feels stuck. He just feels stuck with his life and wondering kind of why he can't progress, why he can't be better, why he can't do more. And then this devil here, I think this is more the mother figure, with 2 sisters. Oh, hold on. That's important. So we started talking about this father who was very oppressive. And that's my cat destroying the plant. See what I mean? This cat is out of control. Okay, and that's the point here. So we're looking at his father, who is very oppressive, but this father is a man of power, right? He has stature, he has a lot to say. So this son is trying to live up in his footsteps. And I think this son is kind of blaming a lot of his difficulties or his he's looking at his father a lot. He's very angry at his father, because he feels this pressure of having to live up to this big figure, and yet he feels like he's failing. But what is going on underneath that is this mother figure, who is represented by the devil here. And then you have this card. Look how this Minotaur is getting beaten, or this guy is fighting with his Minotaur. And that's upside down, and that's sort of telling me the influence from the mother, it's kind of undermining. It's undermining, it is how do you say that? Like, it's shaming him, devaluing him, being very passive aggressive, sort of a lot of critique, a lot of backhanded things. She represents here this Jezebel spirit, you know, this Jezebel spirit who is in the Bible is this woman who just spreads rumors, who, you know, behind closed doors, when the husband comes home, she just complains to him. She says, why can't you do this? Why don't I have that? You're failing me. I'm disappointed in you. I want more. You are not enough. So she's constantly throwing this sort of anger or this frustration or this bitterness onto her son, because in this world where we are, the man had a lot of power. He was a important guy. So what does this woman do out of her? I don't know what her motives are here, but she's in this in this bad energy of feeling disbalanced here in this relationship. So her way of bringing back balance, or with her own insecurities, is trying to undermine this guy. But a lot of the brunt of that emotions are passed on to the son, right? That sort of transfer of violence. I think this guy in the head of the household was very oppressive, or his word was law, so he just was the boss. The mother can't really stand up to him, or only in backhanded ways, or only, you know, like by behind the scenes, maybe trying to manipulate things. But she mostly puts her resentment towards this man. And I do think, I do think this was a very oppressive man. However, I think the mother here couldn't stand up to that, and after years and years and years just became very bitter, very angry, very unhappy. And in her unhappiness, it's like she became poison, and she started poisoning these sisters, which are like almost an extensions of her. And also she tried to poison the son, because in the son she sees a copy of the father, right? And she's so in this resentment, so in this, I think she's also in sort of abusive maybe pattern here. It's like her love gets stifled by a lot of bitterness, a lot of gall, a lot of poison. And that's why you see maybe like this is kind of these snakes, you know what I mean? She has these snakes around these girls, and then it's the same for me around this son. Okay. Okay. And then in the past, with this mother and this father, this shows kind of the story of this father being very... This father, or this man here, was not loyal. He humped around. He had other lovers. He was not loyal to the mother here. But the mother became pregnant. She had the son then, I assume, or just a child. Doesn't matter who, but she became pregnant, so they married. But it was kind of out of, because they had to, right? And I think this guy promised the mother the world when she got pregnant, but he just kept sleeping around with other people, I think, and he kept doing what he wanted to do. He just does what he wants to do. So the mother here gets kind of trapped in this marriage where this guy doesn't want to be in this marriage. He doesn't want this baby. He wants to sleep around with all these women. But then he gets this baby, and now he has to marry her, and he does the bad thing of saying, he's really against this. He says, I don't want this. I don't want this child. So he's very unhappy about it. But then he does his duty. He says, okay, I'll do what a good man is supposed to do, right? I guess I'll just have to live with it. I guess I'll just have to deal with this, right? It's my responsibility, fine. But that's no love. He just takes it on as a responsibility that he's supposed to take on. So he's raising this family as a sort of obligation, as something that he really doesn't want to do. And he stays very angry in that. So that's why we have a man in the household that's detached from his family, that just wants to be the guy in power, sleep around with other women, and do what he wants. And he gives his family the bare minimum out of this spite that he can't let go of. He feels punished. He feels certainly pushed into this life, into this family that he doesn't want, right? And he kind of just stubbornly resists that. And I think he probably didn't really love this mother, but out of his guilt maybe, or out of his the shame that he would feel from other people, he acts like he does, or he forces himself to do that, right? That's kind of sometimes what people do. They're like, how could I not love this child? How could I not do this? That makes me a bad person, and I want to be a good person. So you kind of force yourself to go into this, right? And that's a bit where this bad family dynamic started. And the point also is, during this, the mother gets children, and this guy just keeps sleeping around doing what he wants, right? He's there on the bare minimum. He is doing his duty. But this is just an angry boy that puts his anger out on his family, that is sort of like, he loves in this way of like, what more do you want from me? And I'm already taking care of you and putting a roof over your head and doing this, so leave me alone, right? Sort of, I've done the bare minimum, and then he gets angry at people who then expect love from him, or something more, or compassion, or him to open up. He just doesn't do it. He just remains in his old ways, and because he has power, or because he's the man, just because he's the man, he can kind of do that, right? Now, that's the one side, but the other side is also this woman here. The mistake that she makes is she becomes pregnant. She wants this baby. She wants this baby probably from this guy, but also she knows already here that this guy is not faithful, that there's problems here. Now, what you cannot blame this mother is that when this guy starts hiding the fact that he really doesn't want this baby, and he starts sort of acting the part, is like, oh, we're going to be a family, we're going to be a father, so he kind of plays this part here. You can't blame this mother that she believes these lies, because in this situation, you're scared, you do not want to be alone, you want the family, especially in that time, that would make you an outcast almost, or in a very impoverished situation. So she needs him. So why would she not believe his lies? And who would think that a man would actually not like this baby? Who would think that any person would see his own child and not just feel nothing but love for it, right? That's hard to imagine, so we can't blame this mother dad. However, his first reaction was so negative, and he was very unhappy that she was pregnant. That was like a dark day for him. And I think she sort of started closing one eye to this, and she sort of just did wishful thinking. And maybe ignored the reality and started just hoping. And I think also that's where she started strong-arming this father. It's like, in her powerlessness or in her fear, she starts saying like, hey, you have to be a dad. This is your child. You have to take care of it, okay? You can't just run away from your responsibility. And also this undermining thing of like, how can you not love me? How can you not love this baby? That makes you a bad person, sort of. right? There's this, they start playing this weird, fake, happy family relationship with deep underneath that, the reality of he does not want this and she's just really too afraid to be alone. So that's how this thing started, and that's how we got up in that situation. Now, where did the story go? Wait, I need a little bit more cards to be sure. What happens here is the son, he has the wrong idea. He blames his father for a lot of his unhappiness or a lot of his feeling weak. And I mean, he's not wrong in the sense that his father is probably a bit of a cold asshole. However, both his father and his son are not realizing the negative effects of this mother, the effects that she's having on his self-esteem, on his masculinity, on his strength, because in the trying to, you know, in a resentment towards the bad shit from her husband, she puts it on her son, but also is this kind of way of trying to make the son different than the father. It's like, you are not going to become your father. So she's she shames him for being aggressive, for being a man. Every time he sounds like his father, he gets a lot of nasty comments, or she tries to really put the son on her side. And in a way she succeeds, because I just want to be sure about something here. Yeah. So the son in his anger kills his father. In a bout of frustration, in his feeling so unhappy, in him feeling so deep down torn between these two sides of the family, and being so manipulated and undermined all this time by this mother, he explodes. At one time his emotions all come out. There's this huge volcano of anger, and he does an act of passion and he kills his father. And then falls really into a really big pit of despair, because he what have I done? Okay, I had to stop and really think about this, because it was pretty hard, but now I got it. Because of this torment from his mother, he's like in this 9 of Swords nightmares, right? He's just tortured this son. And he's very depressed and he doesn't know the truth. There are things being kept from him. He's kind of being manipulated here. So he makes the wrong decision and he does kill his father. He kills his father and he kind of takes over, right? So he becomes in charge of the coin, of the family. And that is very nice for this mother, because this is the sort of this mother figure here, this Queen of Swords. She abuses the situation because he has bad boundaries towards her. He doesn't really know, so she manipulates him, and they end up, for this mom, it's like she ends up in control of the situation. So finally they have more access to the power and the coin. And then this beautiful card here shows, this is the thieving card, and then you have these 3 women lying here. So it's like the mother and the 2 sisters are very happy just sitting on the sideline and taking what this guy is making, right? And then where does this go? This young man here gets somebody pregnant and does a bit of the same that his father does. He doesn't want this, but he doesn't admit to it. He keeps carrying on his duty. He feels so responsible for this pentacle because he killed his father. He feels so responsible to keep everything up straight, and he's constantly being pushed by his mom to do the right thing and to help us. So it's like he's being brainwashed by women almost, by this Jezebel spirit, you know? So he falls into the same trap, and he ends up in a marriage that he doesn't want to be in. No freedom. He ends up not being able to choose anymore. He ends up just stuck with this marriage that he doesn't want to be with. So he's in the same story as his father and mother. And then it also ends up with him being an alcoholic and just shutting down on his emotions. Just he drinks, and he doesn't not really emotional anymore. And we end up again with a mother who has to manipulate somebody, who feels so weak. This mother feels so weak, so to have strength, she has to manipulate this guy again. So we end up in the same situation. This is like the karma wheel just spinning forward, right? And it shows you two things. First of all, how we end up in the exact same situation at the end, but you can now also see how. Because the history before that was just as abusive and fucked up, kind of, and forced somebody with the wrong idea of the world, with the wrong idea of emotions, with the wrong idea of love, and with the wrong idea of himself, how he ends up in the same situation, and how, of course, in the end, he becomes super unhappy. His emotions never counted. He never was allowed to have emotions. And then after he killed his father, what was he going to do? Stand up for himself? No, he did what he had to do, weighed down by all that pressure and all that guilt in his prison. In the same prison that his parents were in. Yeah. Okay. And the last thing I wanted to add to that is you mentioned something about being born on the sort of the day of death, but you're also part of the generation where Scorpio is in Pluto, so the Kurt Cobain generation. It doesn't mean somebody's dying, it means you are change. Death is change. When you're born on the day of death, that means that you are the change. That means death for everybody else's ways around you, yeah. But you've come here to change. That's what that old generation is about. We're supposed to be rebellious and fight the ways. What is this card? El Mago. Yeah. That's the underlying theme here. The lesson that should come out of this is how to create the world you want, to not compromise on that because of guilt, because of having to, or it being the correct thing, or it being the just thing, living by other people's laws and parameters. This is about you, or a person creating the life he wants because of the right reasons, out of love, out of things that he really wants, not out of obligation, not out of family values, not out of laws that oblige you to step into a family you don't really want by these old traditions. And the big mistake here that all these people are making is not being honest. They're just not saying what they really think, what they really want. In the beginning, that father should have said, I'm sorry, but I do not want this. This is going to make me very unhappy. How can we fix this? And that's the truth. And then at least he wouldn't have to hide and lie and make this woman feel so completely backstabbed and abused. And she should have also just said, like, I'm so afraid of doing this alone. And I don't know, and I think you don't want to be with me. I don't know what to do with this. It's about speaking up, speaking the truth, and not backhanded, passive aggressive manipulation and shutting down on people. Or you end up in the same circle. You end up in the same circle. Do not compromise. Do not let anybody else decide your path for you. Do not let anybody else even weigh in with their values, or don't even share your ideas with other people. That's maybe important. If you're in this situation, don't share your happiness. Don't share your plan. Do that on your own. Just keep a very firm boundary towards people who are not happy. If people are not happy, they will not help you. Stop feeling guilty. Doing things out of guilt, out of obligation, or out of shame is very bad. And in this case, it's disastrous the way it ends up. Oh yeah. Okay. That was it. That was difficult. Hope it helps. Bye.